I would like to welcome Professor Mark von Rossing. And over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that I have been invited here. I am start sharing my screen. I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So the subject I would like to talk with you about is the learning from the outperformers. And what do they do in the areas of Industry 4.0? What do they do in the area of Internet of Things? What do they do in the areas of actually digitalizing? And what are the most common pitfalls in this journey of adopting new technologies? So therefore, we will obviously talk about digital innovation and we will talk about digital transformation. And mostly, what are the outperformers doing in this and what could we learn from them? This is the introduction of this summit and thereby the presentation. So let's start. Because when we are thinking of Industry 4.0, obviously, wow, that's a lot of subjects, a lot of technology is being touched. So we are touching both from big data to analytics, to cloud computing, to cybersecurity, to robotics, to simulations and vertical integrations of things as well as horizontal, as well as aspects of, well, cybersecurity. Because, I mean, most of these technologies, if you are connecting them and devices, obviously security matters. So what we are seeing here on the left is very interesting because it has become more complex as the Industry 4.0, meaning the Industrial Revolution, with the integrations of things has changed. So if you see, it's actually a combination of the real physical world of things where it's cars or other components or watches that starts to be integrated into the digital world. Again, the digital world, because now that it's integrated, these multiple systems actually are now with the information and data integration have any kind of relationship to the virtual cyber world. That is a world on itself. And through the semantic integration of what data or the information can integrate, we now have a loop that is going around that is combining the real physical world with the digital world and the virtual world. And all of this is, by the way, triggered from the fact of the Internet of Things. Because now I can connect aspects of, as a matter of fact, in this room here, I have light bulbs that connect to the internet, that connect to Bluetooth, that I can connect to my mobile phone, where I can play my music. I can play my music in a totally different part of the house, and I can actually by my mobile phone decide where I want it to be played. By the way, over the light bulbs. So where they have speakers integrated. I mean, we are talking a whole new world. And I know this is just for a consumer component. We have the same thing over buses, over trains, and over the productions, over workplaces that are, where it used to be that the workplace was only connected to the computer, or you worked physically on stancing or working something else. So the world, the way we are working is changing radical. The potential we have is just big. So here's an overview because I thought instead of going through all of them, I wanted to provide a very high level overview of where we are seeing it. We are seeing smart cities evolving. We are seeing smart transports. We are seeing smart economies. Yes, where you have digital economies, you have blockchains, you have global trading, you have crowdfunding, you have other investments, and you have security trading. I mean, the world has changed. Then you have smart consumers. You have smart living, what I just mentioned here. Then you have smart manufacturing. You have smart supply chains. You are now also moving towards smart planning, smart planet. We now have that sustainability and environmental aspects are a part of the industrial revolution, meaning Industry 4.0. So we also are talking about smart energy, electric grids, voltage, faults detections, then obviously smart buildings. We also are now talking about and this is being evolved heavily into aspects of what can you do with your data in buildings. And obviously every one of us is hoping that we are moving towards smart health, and we know COVID has impacted smart health, has impacted and giving this a big push. So in any way, and by the way, this listing that I have done is to give a summary. It is not to be inclusive of all aspects. It is just to say, when we are talking Industry 4.0, we are no more talking just manufacturing. We are no more just talking production. We are talking that it is affecting all industries across any kind of subject that is involved, that can be touched by digital aspects, which obviously is shown here on the left. It needs to be able to combine this. So we, however, are also seeing big trends and changes in the market at the moment. I would like to discuss them very short. This is about our latest Outperformer study that we have done, where we have seen how is the market moving, how are the organizations moving, and especially how are the consumers moving in this field. So let's take a look at this, because we are seeing what is driving the Industry 4.0 and the Internet of Things. So at the moment, we are seeing so big social changes. People avoid the public spaces. Obviously, many countries are locked down. So we are seeing changing in social behavior, and thereby preferences may cause 2 trillion euro of annual value to migrate from public spaces to home-focused industries. So you see here, there is obviously a 15% health and fitness centers are going down. Public transport is going down by 72%. Commercial real estate has gone down, but please note, not private real estate. That has moved up outside of the main cities. So everywhere in the world where you have the digital workplace, you're seeing real estate go up outside of the cities. Why? Organizations are saying we no more need all these commercial real estates. We are moving the workplace to also include the home workplace. Then we have restaurant and hotels. We don't even need to comment this. And we obviously have retail, by the way, excluding e-commerce, because e-commerce has obviously gone up. So you are seeing home improvements going up. Also home improvements in the digital world. Then everything that is digital entertainment has moved up immensely. We also see that food and drinks are going up, obviously, because restaurants and hotels are going down. And we are seeing an immense amount of increase in e-commerce, which means that entire industries are triggered by it and are seeing how fast can you be able to make this digital. So then we see in other things, the buying changes. So this was, by the way, the social changes we just discussed. Now we are seeing buying changes. We are seeing changes in shopping preferences. They are causing consumer-facing brands to lose up to 687 billion euro of value annual. So this is impacting all industries. The education industry is impacted, and the transformation they are needing to do to go towards digital, their ability. Then clothing industry is impacted by 42%, because we are at home, we don't buy as much clothes. I'm not saying that we are not buying clothes. We are saying the trend has impacted. We also see miscellaneous goods. We see health aspects, and also restaurants and hotels are again in the buying behavior, and leisure obviously is impacting here by 163 billion going down. So, and well, obviously, then now it's not only the public transport, now entire transport is going down, which, by the way, we don't need to mention has had an impact on sustainability. So in that case, COVID has had a positive effect in both digitalization and in aspects of sustainability for the environment. So household furnishing is going up, communications is going up, so any kind of digital communication devices. Then the housing is going up, which I mentioned just before. The food and drinks are going up. And this means, obviously, we also see transport changes. This is 318 billion euro annual changes in the entire ecosystem. This is obviously luggage, food service, airport, jet fuel, passenger aircraft, production, obviously, and passenger airlines. So I guess we don't even need to discuss that. Everybody understands this. But what is interesting is that the shift is going to recreational durables. So the money hasn't got lost. The money is being used in others. So what I'm trying to say is for the first time that we see there is an industry shift of value. Normally, if we would go into crisis, entire markets go jointly into crisis. It is for the first time we are seeing that we have tremendous growth industries in the Internet of Things and Industrial Revolution, and we have industries that need to use Internet of Things and the Industrial Revolution in order to actually reduce cost and rethink. So we have digital entertainment here, domestic tourisms. So here's the overview that I wanted to show, that which industries are impacted. So you have liquidity pressures, meaning literally cost pressures. You see here, this is where you are seeing high pressures in most of them, some of them medium pressures, and others are low pressures. Then the revenue pressures are impacting. This is with the social changes, the transport changing, and the buying changes. So we are seeing that actually, due to the changes of where we are, and we are this year still in it, it has an impact to the way of Industry 4.0 and thereby the digital transformation. It is also, we identified that the speed of change will increase. So it is being said that 90% believe that COVID-19 crisis will fundamentally change the way they do business over the next 5 years. So this is not meaning, oh yeah, but it's only now, we are already vaccinating, we are already changing. No, it will have an impact to the way we do business. 21% have the expertise, resource, and commitment to pursue new growth successfully, which means actually 79% do not know what to do. Literally don't know what to do. They don't know how to use this opportunity and how to rethink their business model, their service model, their value model, and digitalize in the right area. And we, in addition to that, 2/3, which is an immense amount here, believe that this will be the most challenging moment in their executive careers, because it means a total rechange of what they do. And 85% of organizations are concerned that the COVID-19 crisis will have a lasting impact on their customers' needs and wants over the next 5 years, which kind of fits together quite well to over here. So if we look at this, what is it that they are seeing? So we asked them what has the greatest effect on their decisions at the moment for the next 12 months. And they see technological changes. So we are clearly, because I mean, many of the points I just made before, you could say, yeah, but how much of this is really impacting Industry 4.0? And how much is really impacting the way we are doing, and from that sense, technology? Well, very clear. It is. So normally in crisis, you would say it's the biggest thing of economics and about competition and how you are seeing the opportunities within it. This, however, is triggered by the technology, Why? Because everything is working on digital. So it's a part of how do you really make digitalization work? And how do you transform yourself to make this happen? So this is therefore foremost a technological aspects, then an economic aspects, and then looking at it of seeing how can you obviously make this work for competition. What the organizations do not want is just a lot of technology. So where are we seeing this exactly in the percentage of experience of change in IT spending? So we see a big growth in software as a service, in public clouds, in desktop laptops. So the workplace is being rethought, obviously, because we are now in the home office. So the digital workplace needs to be rethought. And I'm not only talking about the ability to have internet at home and to have the aspects of a computer at home. I'm talking about the ability to really collaboratively work with your colleagues, the ability to interact. So workplace collaboration, workplace design thinking, and the ability to really do knowledge working within there is a challenge. Then obviously network is a huge growth area for it. Devices are, the storage are. So you see on-premise software has had a really, really hard hit. So has servers, and so has more or less data centers in some areas, but we are seeing this will grow again. So, and this is what we wanted to show and just share with you. So in spending, you are seeing overall, there has been a decrease in 3.2. But in some areas that actually has now, and this is why the 2021 is in growth, we see a growth both in the devices, in the biggest one, in services and others. So the minus that we did have in the data center, or not big growth, is now increased. And we will see it in other areas. So this means that this year will be a big push for devices. It might be that something is moving over to the others, and IT services and communications. And when we are talking devices, we are both talking robotics, smart devices, tablets, any kinds of things that needs to be have to think in digital. So personally, I was involved in most of you know Daimler and also know Audi. So from the cars, where they are thinking the workforce is from home, they need to be digitalizing. So this means a totally different way of robotics integration. And they were already very high level on the robotic automation involved. So we are now talking a totally different level of what was before. And that includes the integrations into the enterprise software with these devices. A whole new way of workplace integration in the production area. So here are some of the device types I wanted to list that we see quite a growth in over the time, and also of how they have been growing throughout the years now that we have had the changes. So you see smartwatches are really growing. You see wristbands in this case have been big, will still be big, but we are moving to ear worn. Why? Because we now need to be much more working smarter at the home office. Head mounted displays is growing, smart clothing is growing, smart patches are growing. So I mean, and this, I could be going on, but this is not the idea. We don't want to discuss the technology trends, but it was very interesting still to see that all of this fits together. Of what I just showed before, obviously fits together in the way of the growth market. I would like to discuss very short the challenge that the executives have. So overall, here's the percentage of executives who believe they don't have the capabilities needed to adjust, meaning to do the innovation and the transformation needed. So that means that they actually do go about automation. They do go about digitalization, but they have the challenge that they do not know how in the world do I make this happen. So you're actually seeing consumer packaged good, 79% of executives say, I don't know how to go about it. The one that is the best prepared is industrial, because they have had the Industry 4.0 revolution actually since starting from 2014. So Industry 4.0 came from here. So they are also feeling that they are much better prepared for this and adapting to it. So this is very interesting. The late adapters into Industry 4.0 and the Internet of Things are now actually seeing the impact of it. So they are turning to this. So what is some of the Cxo blind spots we have identified, or what the outperformers do very smart? Some of the challenges that they have is in 3 different areas, and I would like to discuss that with you. They have an innovation intensity. So they really need to have a lot of change happening. Then they don't know how to go about in the innovation content. What can or should be changed? And then the innovation target group. Who will benefit from what? That is some of the challenges that they have at the moment. So here's what I would like to discuss with you. Most executives don't know and how to define an innovation vision. And I would like to discuss with you, why is that the case? Because I mean, they know what to change. Here's what I can say you into this. Einstein made, I'm a huge fan of Einstein. Einstein defined something very good of saying, the persons that are a part of a system, you cannot ask to solve the system, the challenge of the system. So you cannot ask them to innovate. Why? Because if they knew what to do different, they would already do it. The fact that they haven't changed what they should be changing is a proof that they don't know what to do. As a matter of fact, Einstein called that they are caught in the causal loop of, and he called it the state of insanity. Why? Because they do the same thing over and over again in different ways, expecting a different output. But they cannot get a different output doing the same thing over and over again in different ways. What they need is really innovation. So they implement a lot of technology, they make a lot of digital, and they get very little transformation within it. So here's the overview of what we want to discuss. You see the bottom, the enterprise change between low and high, and you see on the left, between low and high, the market changes. So let's face it, the organizations are challenged with, how do I go about incremental innovation? The incremental innovation is about small changes in strategy, small changes in functions, small changes in processes, services and processes, and products. So this is typically easier and it has lower risk, but the benefits are also lower. This is where most organizations are in. If you are an industry that is hit harder by the change needed, you will not be able to satisfy your change need with that approach. The challenge is most organizations do not know how to go about another approach, because this is what they have been doing. This is, by the way, the most common transformation concepts that exist. Most methods, frameworks, and approaches support this level. Then you have the idea of, you need major advances in strategy, core capabilities, core services construct. You need an entire different service construct, substantial innovation in your service construct, and you need substantial innovation in your customer value proposition. This is where you need to be looking at greenfield, white space, or blue ocean. So, wow, okay. So if blue ocean and white space and greenfield was the substantial innovation, what in the world is radical innovation? Well, that is breakthroughs that can change the game. This is game changers. New products and service models that create a new value proposition and thereby market. It's the next generation. It is not what is already defined by a customer need. That's substantial innovation. Or already existing customer need, where you are trying to fill that gap with a new value proposition or a new product or a new core capability or a new service, is substantial innovation. A radical innovation is total new. We are talking next generation. So then you could say, but how in the world can I create something totally new, radical innovation of something I haven't done or even thought about? This is where you are using technology. You have to find a technology partner, somebody that can deliver you your servers, your infrastructure, your robotics, your devices, and where you can do the journey with them to do the radical innovation needed, even substantial innovation. I can tell you for the last two components here, substantial innovation and radical innovation, you cannot do this journey alone. We have not been able to identify for over thousands of organizations we analyzed that there was any company who was able to do this journey alone without a partner. This is where you need to use the Google model or many others, where you are using your partner, where you stop thinking of it only as a supplier, where you start to think of it as integrating it as a part of your value chain over your partner network. And you need to start partnering with organizations that are outside of your spectrum today. This is what I'm talking about, organizations where you would never even would have them in your supplier list, where I'm talking about robotics organizations, device organizations, or I'm talking about organizations who can literally deliver new ways of servers, hardwares, networks, workplace technologies, all at once. So, why? Because here's the change that is needed within this field. You have about 25 to 35% changes needed in your incremental innovation aspects. And that is a lot. Wow. Here, the incremental innovation is improve existing systems and products. Generally, these low-cost improvements help further differentiate a company from the competition while building a current offerings. So this is about required as your operational improvement concepts. Concepts you could use is BPM, business process management. You could use Lean, you could use Six Sigma, you could use total quality management, zero defect, etc., etc., etc. Now, I want to very importantly say, what do you think is the challenge with this approach? I can tell you one thing. They are all process-centric approaches. This means that you are literally of what Einstein would call in the state of insanity. You are caught in a causality loop, that you will be doing the same thing over and over again because you are just optimizing your processes. You still keep in the same loop because you still have the process. You are just optimizing it. As a matter of fact, you are automating the existing. And you are wondering why you don't get the transformation that you wished that you should be getting. That's because you are basing it on the same stuff that you have. There is very little new in it. And please note, I am not against process work. As a matter of fact, here, every one of you can see, literally wrote the book called The Complete Business Process Handbook. In this case, this is myself here who wrote the Business Process Handbook. I'm a huge process fan. You can Google my name and you will find a lot of, I was involved in developing the BPM concepts. So I've been writing a lot of books about process concepts, about Lean, Six Sigma, zero defects, and many others. So I am not against these approaches. But these approaches are not the silver bullet for what you are looking at when you want to implement Industry 4.0 and you want to move towards digital transformation and innovation. In substantial innovation, you have the need of at least going towards 60 to 80% change. Now we are talking here substantial changes needed in the core competitive capabilities. And I'm talking about the core competitive capabilities. Most organizations don't even have a method or an approach. Most organizations I talk with have not even identified their core competitive competencies or their core competitive capabilities. So this is a thing that they would have to do. Day to day, if they do cost cutting, they do it across all areas, also around their core competitive. If they do improvements, they do it across all areas, they do it more by subject. So they actually go about it the wrong way. Concepts you need here is develop core differentiating capabilities and competencies. You need new service model and you need to rethink your value model. The challenge in our frameworks and methods is we have very little about service modeling. Well, you have the old technique in service-oriented architecture, but that is not service modeling. It touches services, absolutely, but that is not improving or changing your service model of the organization. And that is definitely not rethinking the value model, because it doesn't touch value aspects. It doesn't touch value identification, value planning, and value creation, and then value realization. Most organizations would not even know the differentiated concepts of what I talked about. They would just see value as well as an output, not thinking of, well, I cannot get an output for something that I haven't created. How in the world can you do value realization if you didn't create value? And how can you create value if you did not see where you could create the value and did not plan for that value? And for that, you also need to have a value identification and a value analysis as a part of your innovation cycle. So, talking about that, we come to the last component of the radical innovation needed. And here we are talking about it is in so big and in areas that we are talking total change. Radical innovations are focused on developing revolutionary new product services. It defines new markets that change the game through creating totally new value. So what are we talking about? It's about developing your core differentiating capabilities and competencies to create new products and services. So within your core differentiating capabilities, so you must have mastered the substantial innovation step in order to get to here. Then within that field, you add products and services. So it's about rethink the value model at this level. So having said that, the potential value is therefore for organizations in Industry 4.0 in this direction. I've summarized as I am closing up and coming to the end. Here is a practical artifact you might be looking at. This is the lead innovation matrix that you could be looking at. Your first dimension is the incremental innovation here. This is about improvement. The second dimension is about substantial innovation, and then radical innovation.
Professor Mark, we cannot see your screen. Do you mind sharing it again?
Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Yes, we just missed.
It's just the last slide.
Yeah, and we definitely want to show the last slide. This was the last slide. Every one of you should be having that with you. Why? Because we are talking about this last part is the lead innovation matrix. You would want to use it because this is actually where to go with, how to do the purpose. What does this mean to the business model? What does this mean to the service or revenue model? How is your way of working? So it is literally, we have tried to help you that you can do this journey and go about it. So this is dimension one if you want to go about incremental innovation. This is if you want to go about substantial innovation. And this is if you want to go about radical innovation. This should help you to go about it, that you would know how do you and where do you do it and how do you go about it. And what is the strategic intent here? The strategic intent in incremental innovation is about cost and profit. And the substantial innovation is about growth. In the radical innovation, it's literally taking over the market. It's disrupting it. It's innovation. So the competencies here is operational you need. Here it's change management. There you need to be entrepreneurial. So you have a totally different aspects. And this is the last one that it is. that is actually going, and therefore, what does it mean? What would you have to do? Some recommendations. And this is also the last slide that I have that is about my closing. So thank you very, very much for the time, and I hope that this very more executive view of what you need and what can we learn from outperformers who do this journey of Industry 4.0 and who go about doing digitalization and going about digital transformation. What is it that they need to do? I hope that helped. Thank you very much.